So with fall camp ready to open in about a week, Pac-12 released their preseason all-conference teams, and USC was well represented. We'll talk about who made the cut, and did anybody miss the list? As if we needed another reminder that Pac-12 Media Day is this Friday, one Pac-12 athletic director believes someone is lying. Was George Kliavkoff and the Pac-12 lied to? And in our third and final segment of the show today, 3 questions I'd like to ask at Pac-12 Media Day, but probably shouldn't. That's what's coming up next on Locked On USC.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right. Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Marc, and thanks for making the Locked On USC your first listen every day, whether you're watching on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast downloaded. We're free, and we appreciate your support. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and feel free to leave any comments. We appreciate all the feedback you can offer, because without you, I'm not here. And a real quick update before we really dive into the show here. Starting August 1st, we're going to be moving to 5 days a week as opposed to the 3-day forecast we're working with right now. You got Pac-12 coming up, Pac-12 Media Day on Friday, and basically next week at some point, I'll have an official start date for USC's fall camp. We're going 5 days a week, and we want you to come along for the ride. We appreciate it. All right, so at the top of the show there, I mentioned the Pac-12 released their all-conference teams. And I'm going to go ahead and read off the list here of the Trojans who made the list. They were well represented. They had 10 players who actually made the 3 different levels of the Pac-12, all Pac-12 team. There's first team, second team, and honorable mention. So on first team offense, you've got Caleb Williams at quarterback. You have Jordan Addison and Mario Williams at wide receiver. There's 3 transfers, and Andrew Voorhees along the offensive line. So you've got 4 on the first team. USC leads the conference with 4 representations there. Interesting enough, though, 3 of them are transfers. Moving to first team defense for USC, you've got Tuipulotu. That's it on first team defense. And then if you want to drop down to honorable mention, let's see here. What do we got? Running back. Well, you got nobody at quarterback, nobody at running back. Wide receiver, honorable mention. Gary Bryant Jr. You're going to hear that name one more time here in a moment. Offensive line, no. Defensive line. You've got Nick Figueroa and Solomon Byrd, interesting enough, from the transfer from Wyoming. At linebacker, you have no Trojan representation. Defensive back, scanning through, Xavier Alford from USC. And all-purpose special teams, no, but you do have a return specialist here, Brendan Rice from USC. Now, let's go up to second team offense. You've got Travis Dye at running back, Brett Nylon at offensive line, center. That might have raised an eyebrow or two for USC fans who were constantly like to throw a little shade at Brett, but he obviously has the respect and admiration from the football writers who voted on this. Second team defense, USC is represented with Mckee Blackman playing defensive back, cornerback. Second team specialist. I know I mentioned Gary Bryant Jr.'s name in honorable mention at wide receiver, but he's getting second team respect as a return specialist. And then, let's see here. So that pretty much covers USC's representation on the Pac-12 preseason all-conference team. Now, As I mentioned, USC has 4 first team on offense. 3 of them are transfers. I found that interesting. One, so let's go over the players who are on the list, and then I'm going to come back to something here, because I'm sure some of you are saying, "Hey, there's a name that's missing," and it was one of the first things that jumped out at me as well. So that's why I think my brain is stuck on it here for a moment. Caleb Williams, first team quarterback. Second team quarterback Cameron Rising from Utah. The guy led the Utes to an incredible season in 2021. Came up short in the Rose Bowl against Ohio State. But interesting enough is he is second team. Caleb Williams, who started about, I'd say, a third of the way in to his campaign at Oklahoma, taking over for Spencer Rattler. He's first team. So he's getting a lot of hype. Your honorable mention quarterback there's 2 of them, Dorian Thompson Robinson and Tana Mckee from Stanford. So I'm just wondering how DTR feels about that, with Cameron being second team and him being an honorable mention, Caleb getting first team. DTR is a 5th year senior now? I'm not even keeping track. He's a Bruin, but with the COVID year and everything, I know he is definitely a senior. This will be his 5th year at least at UCLA. So kind of interesting there. Andrew Voorhees being first team offensive line makes complete sense. Jordan Addison, obviously, Blitnikoff winner, makes sense. Mario Williams, though, as a first team wide receiver, Gary Bryant Jr.'s honorable mention. I don't know. I'm just wondering if, what goes into choosing and where these guys are being slotted. No knock on Mario. I think he's going to be tremendous and be a valuable asset on offense this year. But again, these are just the little things that kind of catch my eye. Second team, Brett Nylon, playing center, deservedly so. I think he's going to have a fantastic senior season. I think the entire USC offensive line is going to be great. They showed signs last year with marked improvement, and now knowing that the run game is part of the offensive scheme, I think they're just going to take it to another level. So, yeah, I think that's kind of 4 guys on first team, 10 guys overall. Now, I want to go back to a name you did not hear. Caleb Bullock. So how does Caleb Bullock, who as a freshman, let me go over his resume here. He was a freshman All-American playing safety at USC last year. The 2021 Football Writers Freshman All-American, the Pro Football Focus True Freshman All-American First Team, and internally he won USC's 2021 Co-Defensive Perimeter Player of the Year award. So how do you have those kind of accolades and you're not even worthy of honorable mention? Let's look at the DBs that were selected, because I'm just trying to figure out where he doesn't cut the mustard, so to speak. So first team defense, you've got Clark Phillips from Utah. Okay, he plays cornerback. I can deal with that. Caillou Blue Kelly, Stanford. Solid cornerback. I think he measures well. He's long. Many people thought he might have gone to the NFL after last year. He came back. But then you got Cole Bishop from Utah and Daniel Scott from California. Okay. Second team, Christian Gonzalez from Oregon. Jaden or Jadon Grant from Oregon State. Rajon Wright from Oregon State. And Mckee Blackman from USC. Again, no knock to any of these guys. They're really good players. I'm just wondering, when you slide down now to honorable mention, defensive back, USC has Xavier Alford. He didn't even start last year. He's a heck of a player. I mean, he played, saw significant time, but really? Okay. Ahead of a freshman All-American who started? And I need to correct myself going back. USC did have representation at the linebacker spot for honorable mention. Corey Foreman. I don't know what to say there. Corey he'll be the first to admit he did not have a very good freshman campaign. In fact, he barely saw the field. He did come on towards the end of the year. He started to show why he was considered the number one defensive player coming out of high school. Maybe that's where he's getting some of this preseason hype. But again, how do you give that to him, but you don't put in your freshman All-American? I don't know. It's just, to me, it's kind of odd. And it caught Kalen Bullock's attention as well. He sent out a not so cryptic tweet, and I'm gonna read this quote. "I feel disrespected all over again, but that's cool. Watch this." So you can bet that Kalen is going to he's going to come back with a vengeance in 2022 to make sure that the people who did not choose him for one of the three selections regrets that. And another place you can go is betonline.net, because they are the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. You can find all of your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. You can find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, Go Dodgers, NFL, NBA, NHL, Go Kings Go, combat sports, esports, even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, so in this segment, Pac-12 Media Day. It's coming up Friday, and things are already off to a good start, at least from a media point of view. You look for the hot button things that you're going to focus on. Well, John Canzano, who has the Bald-Faced Truth. He used to write for the Oregonian. He has his own independent blog now. Check it out. Guy brings some amazing information to the on a daily basis for Pac-12 fans. Well, he spoke to a current Pac-12 athletic director who, let me find this, because George is going to be taking the stage first at Pac-12 Media Day Friday, starting at 8 a.m. And obviously the main topic of the day is going to be USC and UCLA heading over to the big conference, the Big Ten Conference, leaving the Pac-12 in their wake. And, someone was asked, it was posed as, because he's going to be the commissioner of record when the Big Ten took USC and UCLA away, how's he supposed to react? And one Pac-12 athletic director said, what's he supposed to do when USC lied to his face? Well, I'll tell you what. I don't think USC lied to George's face. I know he wasn't lied to. Yes, he is the man in charge right now, and he's going to have to wear that yoke, so to speak, when history writes the final saga of this whole thing. I feel bad for him. He walked into a terrible situation. But when he arrived, he made sure that he did this. He had this meet and greet tour that he did. And he went around to each and every single program. And he talked to the athletic directors, the power structures at each school. as well as the media in each locale. He did it at USC. I was there when he did the meet and greet with the media. And, so when he wasn't with the media, he's obviously meeting behind closed doors with Pac-12 athletic directors, I'm assuming school presidents, power brokers. I guarantee you USC made their needs and their wants and their view and their vision of the future well known. And I'm sure they even hinted that, hey, if we're going to explore every avenue out there. Mike Bohn said that publicly. Nothing's off the table. They're going to explore every avenue that's in USC's best interest. USC's best interest is making as much money as possible and going over to the Big Ten. And that's what they're doing. And UCLA, they know that too. They're taking their business, they're taking their ball, their basketball, and they're heading over to the Big Ten. George has a mess to clean up on aisle 3. But I'll tell you what, I want to know which Pac-12 athletic director popped off with that. Because, and I'm going to have this in my yay or nay, that'll be published on Thursday at wearesc.com. Make sure when you're not listening here, because I can't cover everything. I can't cover all the USC news in 30 minutes. It's impossible. There's just too much. However, we've got you covered over at wearesc.com. Meanwhile, when I read that quote from John Casano, from a Pac-12 athletic director, my mind immediately went to the movie Animal House and that nerdy dude who popped off after John Belushi's character Bluto gave his call to arms speech. Was it over when the when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? I would love for this anonymous athletic director to be the Oregon athletic director. Don't ask me why. Well, you can ask me why. But I don't know. If that's the type of tension that's going to be at Pac-12 Media Day on Friday, I can't wait. I'll be there bright and early. I think registration starts at 6:30. I like to get breakfast, so I'll get my coffee, get my place all set up. I'll be ready to go because I have a feeling there's going to be some interesting questions that are going to be asked. Speaking of interesting questions, I like to be provocative in my own way. I've always been known as a provocateur, but when it comes to doing my job and respecting the people I work with, I'm going to pick and choose the places where I like to kind of poke the bear, poke the monkey. When I go to the zoo, I like to make fun of the animals. At Pac-12 Media Day, these are some questions that I'd like to ask, but I probably shouldn't because I know it would put these people in an awkward situation. So, for Oregon, what does it feel like to believe that you were one of the top programs in the country, only to find out that you're still on standby waiting for other schools before you're considered for expansion? I would love to ask that to the Oregon athletic director. God, if Phil Knight was there, I definitely would ask this question to him just to see his bug eyes get even buggier. And the other, I guess that would be a two-part question too. I would ask this of Phil. Would you be willing to foot the bill for Oregon to join the Big Ten or the SEC if they asked Oregon to take a smaller share of the revenue in exchange for joining those conferences? In other words, would Uncle Phil subsidize Oregon and, give them an extra, let's say that the Big Ten said, hey, yeah, you know what, you can come along for the ride, but you're going to make $15 million less than USC and UCLA. would Phil Knight be willing? Would he be willing to write that check to Oregon every year to make up the difference? I have a feeling the answer is yes. So you would probably have to make that number bigger. I don't know. I'd like to ask a question to George Kliavkoff. What will the optics be like if USC wins the Pac-12 Conference Championship and makes the playoffs before they leave for the Big 12? Excuse me, the Big 10, the Big 16, 20, whatever they're going to call it, before they're gone. I mean, I'm just trying to imagine George having to hand the Pac-12 trophy over to Mike Bohn and Lincoln Riley and the USC team standing on the stage as they get ready to head off to the playoffs. I mean, that's not, the perception is, wow, look at this. This is the face of our conference. You know, granted, they've had a mask on for a while, metaphorically speaking, and now USC is back. They've got that face of a coach that, you know, one of the top 5 coaches in the country. They're winning again. They're recruiting at a high level again. And now all of a sudden, they're heading over to the Big Ten. That's got to be a really awkward, uncomfortable feeling for Mike Bohn. I can't imagine he's looking forward to that. You know, if Merton Hanks is available, I'm going to ask him, what in the heck are you doing with your officiating? You know, do you go to sleep at night embarrassed? Because I have to imagine he's seen the feedback from each of the schools privately, as well as, you know, any type of fan interaction. It's not good. And then I guess, you know, for rivalry's sake, I'd ask UCLA's Dorian Thompson-Robinson, you know, do you feel disrespected, you know, after the way you performed last season, only making the honorable mention at quarterback? You know, look, people know I will find any way I can, any place possible where I can make fun and take a dig at UCLA. Well, it's hard to hold that right now, hold that card in my hand when they dropped 62 points on USC last year, and DTR looked really good doing it, hurdling defenders as he, you know, gallops into the end zone. It was an ugly performance by USC, and, you know, he had a really strong performance. So, you know, meanwhile, pardon me, you've got Caleb Williams, first team quarterback. You know, again, he became Oklahoma's starter, I would say, after the fourth game of their season in 2021. Cameron Rising as the second team. Obviously, he should probably be first team, considering he led Utah to the Pac-12 championship last year, into the Rose Bowl, although, you know, they did come up short against Ohio State. But, you know, I don't know. You think he earned that. He looked pretty good at the position. You know, so if I was voting, I would have had Cameron Rising first team. It hurts to say it. I would have DTR as your second team quarterback. And then you give Caleb your honorable mention. Yeah, he's getting all the preseason national hype, you know, Heisman hopeful, Davey O'Brien. So I get it. You know, this is all politics. It's kind of how the recruiting, you know, rankings go as well. It's part of the game. It's how you play it. So look, we'll have more coming up on our next show on Friday. You're going to be watching this on Thursday, hopefully. First look, first watch, first listen. And on Friday, I plan to have a special guest, so make sure you tune in. So until then, fight on, everybody.